There's an ongoing debate on whether ICE should be enforcing the law in Americans' major cities. And in Minneapolis, a protester was recently killed during an ICE operation. Now, the city's mayor is telling ICE to leave. But one mom who lost her son to fentanyl says they should stay and continue enforcing the law. Anne Fundner says ICE is helping put an end to Americans' fentanyl crisis. And thanks for joining us today. So what's your take on the protests we're seeing in Minneapolis?
Thank you for having me on. The protests that we see, it's unbelievable. Where are the protests for my son when he died, or the hundreds of thousands of other children other parents who are missing children due to open borders? Where are those protests? There are none. And the fact that they're protesting someone who deliberately tried to run over an ICE officer, where he was forced to protect himself and other people who down the road, it's absolutely unbelievable. He was protecting others. She was trying to dart towards him, and not only that, if she was trying to just get away, she wouldn't have left her wife outside of the car. This was deliberate. She was trying to hurt him. It's not the first time in her record where she tried to hurt a police officer, and they're just turning this into George Floyd 2.0. And meanwhile, there's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of parents who are grieving because of faulty open border policy and negligent open border policy, that now we're doing something. We're sending people back to back over the border because they're not here legally, and we have laws in this country that we have to obey. As a matter of fact, I hope that Secretary Noem, she doubles down, and it looks like she is. She's sending more ICE officers out there, and I think that's the way to go.
So with what's going on in Minneapolis and the subsequent protests, and what we're seeing seems to have brought out pain and trauma of losing your son to fentanyl. And why is that?
Well, that pain never goes away. It's with me daily. My son was 15, but it's just hard to watch people protect someone who is trying to protect people who are criminal aliens, people who broke the law. Not only broke the law, but the people that they're deporting are criminals. They're people who have violent crime background, trafficking crime backgrounds. These are people that should not be in this country, that are living off of our system, off of our tax dollars, off of our health care, our cell phone, free cell phones, even living off of it in actual housing that should be going to our veterans and our own homeless. And they need to be deported, especially criminal aliens. And so people protecting people like that, who traffic drugs over the border, that counterfeit drugs that killed my son and thousands and hundreds of thousands of others, should not be protected by anyone. And everyone has, lost their mind, quite frankly. This shouldn't be an argument. It's become politically polarized, and I think people are they're not playing with common sense anymore. They're protecting people who don't deserve to be protected, and they would hurt your kids and anybody's kids without thinking, without blinking an eye. So they need to go.
So you just mentioned illegal drug smuggling across the border, and your son who died from the illegally smuggled drugs. Can you tell us a little bit more about your son?
I'm sorry you cut out, but I think you asked me to tell you more about my son. My son was 15 years old. He was a good student. He had a lot of friends. He was a very sweet, sweet kid. He had a heart of gold, and he loved sports. He loved God. He was just a very good kid, and an athlete. He loved to surf too, hockey, football. And he would give the shirt off of his back to anybody who wanted it. He just genuinely was a wonderful kid who, in a new situation, tried something with other people who were trying it, didn't want to be the odd man out, was trying to fit into a crowd, told it was a Percocet, but it wasn't a Percocet, so he was deceived to death. It was actually, pure fentanyl with blue press powder disguised to look like a real Percocet. And this is the problem. These fake pills that people think are real, that they take normally from their doctors, and suddenly, they run out of them, and, the pain is bad and they don't have a doctor's appointment. um you know for a while they might try to buy one, or get one off of somebody else thinking it's a real pill. Nobody, I don't care if even an addict, nobody, people are struggling enough in addiction. Nobody deserves to be deceived to death through fake pills coming over our faulty, negligent, and purely preventable open borders. It's just not right. And so now we're doing something about it. And I stand behind ICE all the way.
Yeah, and President Trump has been making an end to the fentanyl crisis a big part of his campaign. And what do you make of the administration's efforts so far with what they're doing in ICE and the border?
Unbelievable. Night and day from the last administration, where my hands were in my face going, why aren't they doing anything? Hundreds of thousands of people are dying. Why aren't they doing anything? And they really were doing nothing but inviting more people over. This administration has sealed the borders. There's been near zero border crossings since he has gotten it under control. He's closed the de minimis loophole. He's tariffed, nations who are either have labs over there, or who are trafficking it over to where it is, where the precursor chemicals come from, and where they're being developed, these counterfeit pills. And so he's doing all the right things. Triple tariffs on companies like Shein and Temu, who have individual sellers that send packages over here, and disguise, the fentanyl in bricks. The de minimis loophole did help with that as well, but triple tariffs certainly help. And then we have the Halt Fentanyl Act, which was huge. The Halt Fentanyl Act criminalized people, um, gave people minimum jail time. So we're working on the criminalization. And let's look at blowing up narco terrorists, terrorists who are bringing over drugs in boats, not fishermen, but actual terrorists who are trafficking drugs over in boats. And now we have taken out the largest cartel leader there is, Maduro. We took out the largest cartel leader in Venezuela, in South America. But by taking Maduro out, we took out the money of the largest drug empire in the world. And people need to recognize that. And on top of that, that is a win for Venezuela, because people were struggling under his tyranny.
You talked about closing up the border, which is almost completely closed, and also ending the drug smuggling from Venezuela. So what I understand so far is that there's no drugs and illegally smuggled substance coming through our borders, but there's still a lot of illicit drugs in the country, such as fentanyl, that can lead to deaths, such as your son. What should we do to what's left in our country?
So we do have, drug smuggling is always going to be a problem. They're always going to try to get it into this country, because multi-billion-dollar corporations, which the drug empire is, even though they're cartels, these are men in business suits. They don't fold overnight. They're going to try to figure a way to get it over here. So what we can do is just educate our children. There's never too much education with children. We always have to be talking to our children about why you can't trust anything unless it's given to you by a doctor, a pharmacist, or a parent. Never take anything from your friends. And we also, as parents, need to talk to our kids about peer pressure, because in the end, that's what got my son. He knew better than to take anything from anybody. But I believe that he just felt like his doctor said it was okay to take, even though I didn't let him take it. His doctor had offered him a prescription for it when he hurt his hand a couple weeks earlier, and he had heard of it. So I believe he felt like it could be safe and he could score some cool points. Social status is worth its weight in gold for kids. So talk to your kids about peer pressure, but don't stop there. Run scenarios, because you can say it as much as you want, but when they're in that situation, it's really hard to say no. So if you prepare your child by practicing with them, let's run this scenario so that you know what to say, how to say it. And when you're in that situation, you have the script down and you're not worried about what you're saying. And as a matter of fact, that's going to help other kids who don't want to do it either, but maybe feel the pressure. So run scenarios, not my thing. My parents are coming in a little while. I really don't, I'm not, no thanks. Whatever it is, help your kids, give them the tools and the courage to say no and be able to get out of it. Those are my two biggest suggestions for tackling it with your kids, but just keep supporting ICE, keep supporting, your local law enforcement, and, keep voting. We have our midterms coming up. We need to make sure that we protect this country, and protecting this country is protecting our borders, and the agenda of this president, which is to keep America safe. So remember that in, these upcoming elections too.
I love your advice of running these scenarios to encourage courageous behavior within school and outside school. Anne Fundner, thank you for your advice. Our hearts goes out to you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.